Hello friends, greetings, and welcome back to the channel. I am the GM Philosopher, and today we are talking about powerful magic items in low-level parties. Should you give powerful magic items to a low-level party? And if you do, how can you handle it? Should you avoid it altogether? Is it going to make the group overpowered and ruin the balance? These are all important things to think about. And this has been prompted by a situation in my game where in the last session, the players came upon some relatively powerful magic items. They are level 5 players, and I'm going to basically explain how I make this work. This is not a new situation for me. I've dealt with this many times. With that being said, I would love for you to drop your opinion in the comments. Should you give a lower level party powerful magic items? And if you do, how do you handle it to keep the encounters balanced? I would love to hear from you, so drop a comment and let me know. I always love to hear from awesome D&D players like you and learn more stuff and keep the conversation going. With that being said, let's continue on, and I'm going to talk about the situation I'm in. So basically, in my last session, the players wiped out the enemy dragonborn base. But before it happened, they had a little search and rescue extraction mission where they had to retrieve 2 of their NPC party members who had been captured by the Dragonborn. And when they did, they raided the Dragonborn armory at the same time. They fought the guards, they defeated one of the Dragonborn bosses, and they were able to make it out with quite a few magic items. There were about a dozen magic items in all. Most of them were relatively lower powered magic items, but there were a couple items that were pretty powerful. And the most powerful one was a Wand of Polymorph. Now, I'm not sure if you know about this, but a Wand of Polymorph basically has 7 charges. Every day you can roll a d6 plus 1, and you can replace expended charges. If you use all 7, you have to roll a 20-sider, and if you roll a 1, the wand crumbles into dust. Basically, you can use it to cast the spell Polymorph. You do have to be attuned to it. But the Polymorph spell transforms a creature that you can see within range, which is 60 feet, into a new form. An unwilling creature must make a wisdom saving throw to avoid the effect. The spell has no effect on a shape changer or a creature with 0 hit points. But basically, you can turn the creature into the form of any beast whose challenge rating is equal to or less than the target's. The target's game statistics, including mental ability scores, are replaced by the statistics of the chosen beast. It retains its alignment and personality, but all of its stats are different. So in other words, if you hit an orc with this and you turn him into a mouse, he literally becomes a mouse. His brain becomes a mouse brain. His gear melds into his body. And that's just how it works. Now, there was actually a really cool situation where it turned out that underneath the base there was a dragon, and they actually used the Wand of Polymorph to help defeat the dragon. With that being said, coolness aside, now we have a party who has a relatively powerful magic item. I mean, a Wand of Polymorph for a party of level 5 characters, in my opinion, is relatively strong and powerful, plus the other magic items they got. So how are we going to deal with this? What is my plan? So first of all, should you give powerful magic items to a low-level party? You got to be careful with this, in my opinion. I think that you can give powerful magic items, but there should be a limit to that. And I'm going to explain why. But what you really want to be careful about are game-changing, imbalancing magical items that are almost going to be like a campaign item in their own right. And here's what I mean by this. I once had a lower level party find a scroll of wish. And the way that they were able to find it is it was random rolled. The loot, they just had the perfect roll and they found the scroll of wish. I think they were level 3s. They ended up using this wish to wish for a ring of 3 wishes. Now, I did some figuring, and I figured out that technically, this ring of 3 wishes is a legendary item. While wearing this ring, you can use an action to expend one of its 3 charges to cast the wish spell from it. The ring becomes non-magical when you use the last charge. This is a super powerful magic item, incredibly game-breaking powerful. And yet, they rolled it. There was a chance, very small chance they could get it, but they got it. They got the scroll, and then they wished for the ring of 3 wishes. Now, I allowed this to happen because technically in my world, legendary items like this, there are one of them, but there is one of them in the world. I had to roll to see if it had been used yet. It had not. So they did get a ring of 3 wishes, but what ended up happening was it got stolen from its previous owner when they cast the spell, who just happened to be a beholder, like a beholder wizard who lived in the Underdark. So when this beholder's ring was stolen, they did a bunch of magical stuff to determine who had stolen it. And then they embarked on a quest to annihilate this person and everyone they knew to get their ring back. So this actually became a major plot point in itself. This beholder ended up coming to the material plane, hunting down the party, teaming up with a bunch of the party's existing enemies and forming this just assault, this onslaught. And the group ended up having to use the Ring of Three Wishes to basically reset their situation in the game, escape from that continent, and just like start a new life. It was so bad for them that they actually ended up having to bounce almost on their complete lives. Like their whole campaign virtually got reset because they had to get themselves as far away from this situation as feasibly possible. And they had to use the ring to do it because that beholder was going to end them, along with all of the other enemies who now had this powerful ally to help them overcome the party. So as you can see, magic items do come with consequences. And if you're willing to go the distance and you're willing to stay true to that mantra, then yes, you can give your party powerful magic items, but it's really important for you as a GM to understand that it might change the way that your game runs, and it may turn the game into the kind of game you don't want to run. Some game masters wouldn't like that kind of situation because it could derail their whole campaign plans. And this absolutely derailed all of my campaign plans, but I didn't care because I was really sandboxing it. And to me, it was fun to watch the players deal with this. Now, with that being said, I don't always just throw this stuff in willy-nilly. The players got super lucky to get the Scroll of Wish, and I only allowed them to wish for the Ring of Three Wishes because technically in my world it was possible, and I had to admit that, and that's just the way it was. Had I tried to railroad that, that wouldn't have been fair to the party, and I feel like it would have hurt the illusion of reality, and it just wouldn't have been fair to them because they were pretty smart and creative to think of that. And I like to reward creativity, especially if it makes sense to do so and is consistent with my world state. With that being said, here are 4 tips that I use, 4 kind of like rules that I keep in mind to help balance small parties having large magic items and how I run it like that. Okay. Number 1, treat powerful magic items as rare and dangerous. Okay. Finding a magic item isn't a one-way ticket to just easy street for players. At first, there are a lot of things that may become easier for the party, but it will invite its own share of dangers. And so it's really important that when players find powerful magic items, you spell that out to them and you make it known. Like you might say, you find the Wand of Polymorph. As you shake the dust off, its glimmering surface reveals the power hidden within. However, as you pick it up, a sense of dread gnaws at your gut. You realize that while this magic item may bring about a great deal of extra power, you also realize that anyone who realizes you have this is going to focus you out as a target. They're going to want what you have. And so this causes you to think to yourself, what should I do to protect myself from the dangers of such a powerful magic item? Right? So you want to spell this out to the players. They should understand the gravity of that. In my opinion, this is what I do. Okay. Number 2, generally speaking, there will be in-game benefits and downsides to wielding such an item. And that's exactly an extension of what my first rule is. Yes, they're going to use it and they're going to experience a lot of benefits, but there will be downsides. And as a GM, it's really important that you do manage those downsides too. It can be easy to want to stick with our campaign the way we had planned it if players get really powerful magic items. But unfortunately, when a party gets a very powerful magic item, it does change the course of their experience probably. It's probably going to change the way the campaign plays out. And sometimes as a GM, we will want to pay special attention to the downsides of that item. For example, the Wand of Polymorph, the next powerful wizard they run into is going to look very lustfully at that wand and want it for themselves. And instead of kind of like saying hi to the party, meeting them and not really thinking too much of it, now they're going to be getting the targeted eye of pretty much anyone powerful they meet who realizes they have such an item. And if they fight enemies with this, the survivors will carry that news back to their commanders or whatever, and word might get around and people might start to treat the party differently as a result of the fact that they're known for having this kind of like firepower. So it can take a while, but there are downsides to big magic items. And it's really important that we role play that out and spell that out, which can be a big challenge. And if you don't like the idea of that, then it may not be a good idea to put higher level magic items into your campaign. Personally, I love that. I love that so much. To me, that's one of the funnest things to do. So I'm usually tempted to give the party relatively powerful magic items, not like crazy powerful, but somewhat powerful. And I'm not at all afraid of the risk that they could find it. And sometimes it makes the game super fun. With that being said, this leads right into rule number 3. Let the players feel the power of these magic items, but also drop situations into the mix that really challenge this newfound sense of power. So for example, when my players take these magic items into the next like level appropriate fight, they're probably going to just wipe the floor with whoever challenges them. They're just going to wreck, and it's going to be easy, and it's going to feel like a breeze, and they're going to kind of laugh and joke about it. And what would have been a dangerous fight a week ago is going to become something like that they can almost just have fun with. And there's going to be very minimal to little danger to them because they have the firepower of these magic items now. I'm going to let that happen a couple times. I want to let that happen 2, 3, 4 times before throwing something really big in, right? Someone who maybe knows about the item, or someone who's trying to get the item, or someone who has some kind of plan for mitigating the use of this item, right? I'm going to drop a situation where they're going to be like, oh my God. Like, so you can create a jarring impact by letting them steamroll a few enemies and then throwing something in that will actually challenge them. And even with their weapons that is prepared for that, like this can be a very fun transition in like black and white. Like it can create a lot of impact for the party and make them think, oh my gosh, like it'll make them think twice about whether or not they should be carrying around this kind of stuff, and definitely whether or not they should be flaunting it. And this leads me to rule number 4. Keep in mind that player agency is key, but also remember that with great power comes great responsibility. One thing that always comes to mind is the balance of good and evil. Are the players using this power for good, or are they delving into evil, to dark stuff? Are they doing shady things? Because if it gets too shady, like a random thief or maybe even a random killer isn't going to get so much attention. A killer with powerful magic items, a thief with powerful magic items, that's going to get big attention from paladins, people who are trying to keep the peace, even the gods who might send their paladins to deal with the threat. If my players are using powerful magic items or abilities to do evil things, it's only a matter of time before the paladins get on their case and they start to pursue them. And there's one thing about paladins, they keep on coming. You kill the first one, 2 more show up next time. You kill them, a group of 4 shows up next time. You kill those 4, before you know it, a detachment of a dozen paladins with a general shows up with field artillery and wild animal mounts, and they're coming in hardcore. Like, in my campaigns, generally evil catches up to you. It's at the very least a huge nuisance. I one time had a campaign where a player was playing a very, very like dark, evil necromancer, and they got into very high levels, near epic levels by the end of the campaign. And it was so crazy. They were getting so hotly pursued by high level paladins. I mean, it was almost like all the time they had to deal with this issue of like, the gods keep trying to kill me. They're sending people to kill me. Like they had like an army. They took all these precautions. They would hide their location. They would disguise themselves. They did all of this wild stuff just to deal with the ever-present pressure of good trying to sweep over the evil, right? And evil does sometimes come at the good players, but not quite as much as the good will seek out the evil, at least in my campaigns. So there always is that extra balance of like, if they're going to do something evil, there are going to be some repercussions. And the higher level and the more magic items they're using, then the more real life gravity that's going to have. And so that's something that's always present. And sometimes after players get a taste of that, they end up converting and saying, this evil business is not easy. I don't know if this is for me. I'm tired of having paladins hunting me down, trying to catch me in my sleep and take me out. Like it becomes a real thing. So anyway, that's something that I do in my games, and that helps me to balance it out. But anyway, so there you go. That's how I feel about powerful magic items for a low-level party and how I handle it personally. Let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions on this. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for coming back by my channel. I'm creating content every day about the best game in the world, D&D. Give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. It helps me to grow in the algorithm and grow my channel so I can create more awesome content for you awesome people. And make sure you get out there and play some D&D this weekend. If you don't have a game going, start one, because D&D is the best game in the world and everyone should play it. All right, thank you so much for watching. I will see you awesome people on the next one.